Good evening, viewers. We are back here with Nassim Taleb, author of The Black Swan, to talk about his new word anti-senility.
That's anti-fragility.
Anti-fragility? Pardon me. What is anti-fragility?
Anti-fragility is an advanced concept. Before we start, let me explain by asking you some questions. What is the opposite of cold?
Hot.
What is the opposite of low?
High.
What is the opposite of destruction?
Anti-destruction?
Wonker. What is the opposite of destruction?
Construction.
What is the opposite of fragility?
Robustness.
No. You see a lot of people say that. But the opposite of fragility involves
Flexibility?
Let me finish.
Pliability?
No, you see robustness, flexibility, pliability and so forth. These don't really capture anti-fragility. It is more a question of
Durability?
No. Listen, I don't think you understand.
The notion of resilience. That something might be supple, strong, unbreakable, secure, mature, unsusceptible, resisting, responsive and/or adaptive? Was there a word you were looking for?
The word is anti-fragility.
Anti-fragility?
Anti-fragility.
Dude.
Aha.
That's not a word.
Let me explain something to you. You take a car. You drive it against the wall at 1/10 of a mile per hour, 100 times, or 1,000 times. Have you done any harm? No. 1/10 of a mile per hour won't harm you. The car will have some damage, but it won't harm you. Now, drive the same car once at 100 miles per hour and it will do a lot of damage. That has something to do with anti-fragility, apparently.
I would not buy a used car that had been driven into the wall 100 times.
That's not the point. The damage is non-linear. As in, not linear. Non-linearity is another advanced concept that can only be approached through a large number of concrete examples.
A large number of examples, huh? So let's see, I were to get to first base with my girlfriend 100 times, she would never get pregnant, but if I got a lot further just one time. Well, I think I get the idea behind anti-fertility.
Anti-fertility is just a special case of anti-fragility.
Anti-fertility is so cool though. But tell me, what has non-linearity got to do with?
Let me cut in here. I was not talking specifically about anti-fragility, just that people don't appreciate non-linearity, and that is something to do with asymmetry.
Asymmetry. Did you mean to say anti-symmetry?
Anti-symmetry is not a word.
It isn't?
No.
How disappointing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you need to know that things respond in non-linear fashion. This coffee cup I have on my desk has suffered a lot of shocks. But it has not broken. Now if I let it fall to the floor it will break. Do you see?
I'm not sure how to respond to that.
Well, take it seriously. Think of something that is really dependable. Something you would trust your life on. I will show you how anti-fragility applies.
How about a jet engine? I think those are just about the most dependable things anyone has ever built.
Great. So you see, it goes like this. You want to keep the engines stronger by mistreating them regularly. Let them accumulate lots of little fractures.
I see where you are going. Perhaps Europe could have small, occasional wars between countries like in the old days, to keep things in check. Or perhaps the citizens of New York City should all riot one day a year, just to kind of shake things up a little and make sure law enforcement is on their toes.
Those may not be the best examples. But the concept of anti-fragility is
anti-profound.
I don't think anti-profundity is a word.
Yes, it is.
No, anti-profundity is definitely not a word.
Yes, it is. Let me ask you some questions. What is the opposite of down?
Up.
What is the opposite of meek?
Non-meek.
Oh, nice. What is the opposite of profound?
I have never had the need to know that. Let me look in the anti-dictionary. The opposite of profound is. It says here the opposite of profound is ignorant.
Keep going.
Stupid. Vague.
I think you are missing a few.
Deluded. Misleading.
Quite possibly on the right track. But perhaps there is no word in the English language to Describe anti-profundity. You just recognize it when you see it.
Well, I think it is possible to be vague and profound at the same time. So long as you are abstract. Humans hate abstraction. We hate it with a passion. We aren't abstract.
Some of us just hate vague, pathetic attempts at abstraction. Some humans devote many years of their lives to learning rigorous, non-trivial abstraction and generalization in the language in which it is best expressed, mathematics. Is it not ironic then that in your previous writing you have been very harsh on mathematically trained people? Do you honestly believe they are unable to grasp concepts like nonlinearity, or might it be that you are pandering to a profoundly non-mathematical audience looking for shortcuts to alleged profundity?
No, that is unfair. For example, I have identified a profound oversight by the quantitative community that has been overlooked by the experts but can be easily communicated to the anti-expert.
Sounds like you aspire to be an anti-intellectual. Very clever. Do you? Also engaging into research. Like deliberately not reading SBVH relevant literature?
You can mock my anti-research all you like, but it led me to the oversight we speak of. The real world is extremistan. The mathematically modeled world is mediocristan. In delineating the dichotomy between extremistan and mediocristan, I have provided verbal meta-guidance for applied mathematicians. Without it, they would not know when to use fractals instead of bell curves or nonlinear mathematics instead of linear mathematics.
I am familiar with the extremistan-mediocristan dichotomy. But I am an applied mathematician and I regard it as nonsense aimed not at those who apply mathematics, but rather those who never had the slightest intention of ever using mathematics. Your advice is aimed, rather safely, at those with no intention of learning more about the field, who would rather just think deep thoughts about how other people apply mathematics.
Well, maybe. But don't you think we should examine this example of vague profundity on its merits? Let me explain. Briefly. The world has linear and nonlinear phenomena. But mathematicians have to be careful not to use the wrong kind of mathematics in the wrong place. You wouldn't want to use linear mathematics to model a nonlinear problem, would you?
Yes, you might, actually. Linear algebra is pretty damn useful for addressing nonlinear problems.
I don't think you get it. Think about fractals and power laws.
What about them? You want me to meditate?
Just think about how amazing self-similarity is. Nonlinearity. Non-Gaussianity. It's so great.
Brownian motion is self-similar too, but you aren't so hot on that.
Brownian motion isn't a good way to model things like stock prices. That is an example of people being stuck in extremistan.
The Doob theorem states that all continuous time-fair processes are time-changed Brownian motion. So pretty much every abstract construct useful for modeling continuous financial prices is a tweak on Brownian motion. Just another reason why Gaussian processes are pretty damn useful.
Well, Brownian motion is a relative of the bell curve, so watch out. You can't use the bell curve to model earthquake intensity, for example.
Oh yes. You can. Since when was taking logs such a big deal? And since we are on the subject, a large number of phenomena are considered to follow power laws, and that is groovy, but in many cases there is scant statistical evidence distinguishing them definitively from other families of distributions, including, in many cases, simple transformations of the bell curve.
Well, now I don't know about that. Consider all the web pages in the world. Some are extremely popular and there are some that almost no one visits. So if you tried to model the distribution as a bell curve, you would be way off. Web page popularity follows a zip distribution, and that places it firmly in extremistan. You see, most of the world is extremistan, and people just don't appreciate that.
People don't appreciate that web page popularity is non-Gaussian? Who are these people who have literally tried to model the distribution of web page popularity as a bell curve? Do they hold meetings? Did it occur to them that the normal distribution takes on negative values? Are they perhaps made of straw?
Well, my point stands. Web page popularity is in extremistan. But statisticians, economists, mathematicians and other nerds trapped in dogma are stuck in mediocristan. They would try to use linear mathematics.
Yes, they might.
So you agree?
Yes.
You really agree with me now? The quantitative people might try to attack the nonlinear problem of web page popularity using linear methods.
Yes. For example, when Larry Page and Sergey Brin were pondering the most spectacular use of applied mathematics in recent commercial history, namely the estimation of web page popularity in extremistan, they found themselves smack bang in the middle of linear algebra. Weird, huh? So you might want to look up the singular value decomposition one day in the history of Google, because it is a lot more useful when it comes to solving real-world problems than anti-profound anti-intellectualism for dummies.
Loser.
Whatever. Well, anyway, thanks viewers for joining us again. I'm sorry that got a little heated, but we will surely have something anti-profound for you next time.